You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. One of the biggest factors for Sunday's game with LSU and Florida State, in my opinion, is the health of the two teams. If you missed the news, on Tuesday, Mike Norvell announced that linebacker Amari Gaynor likely will not play. He was injured against Duquesne. Amari Gaynor is the current career leader, the active career leader in tackles on this Florida State team. This is after Steven Dix Jr., a linebacker a week ago, suffered a season-ending injury. Two now of Florida State's first five linebackers are injured and won't play against LSU. Injuries are significant. Consider the conversations we were having a year ago at this time. Do you realize a few days before LSU was reporting to camp, your presumed starting quarterback broke his arm, and missed the whole season, and that would be the end of his career? Right before you were about to play UCLA, Jared Small, who, if you remember, was taking starting reps at linebacker, tore his ACL the week before the UCLA game. You had offensive line injuries last year in camp as well. Injuries are part of the game. We all know that to be true. Sometimes it's flukish, and sometimes it's actual preparation. You know, I asked Brian Kelly at his press conference on Monday if this is maybe the luckiest or healthiest that he can remember a team coming through camp.
We got a week left. Coming up to this point, Corin Norman, obviously we lost him to an ACL, so I never want to exclude somebody when they've had an injury, and, because it hits back on you later. Coach, what about me, right? But it is, from an injury standpoint, this has been a great camp. I mean, it's got to be graded out from that perspective, and it has a lot to do with the way Coach Flint and Dr. Frakes and Bo have developed this team, and then our players, and their commitment's been outstanding. So yes to that.
Miles Brennan falling and breaking his arm is a fluke. Les Miles continuing to run full contact 11 on 11 with Leonard Fournette carrying the football and Leonard spraining his ankle on the last carry after repeating it over and over. That's just circumstance that could have been avoided. Brian Kelly elaborated a bit on how this team has been able to remain so healthy.
The three things that stand out to me are nutrition, strength and conditioning, and our medical personnel, and how that affects and has affected our team and their development. Those three groups working together in unison and having the physical plant. And when I say the physical plant, the nutrition center, the weight room, and then the facilities necessary in nutrition, to bring all of those three groups together to service and serve our student athletes.
One of the things he mentioned was that they've had only 2 soft tissue injuries. Normally, muscle pulls and strains are very common. Hamstring, quad, they've had 2. As of now, the most severe thing they've dealt with, Jack Besh had shin splints. Chris Hilton and Malik Neighbors have been hobbled a little. Thank goodness that's arguably your most talented position on the field at receiver. Speaking of which, Brian Kelly gave an update on Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, he should be good. I think today is another recovery day. I would believe that probably tomorrow he'll begin drill work. We'll be in a light drill work. But when we get into our normal routine of practice, he'll be cleared to practice. He had an ankle sprain.
One of the things that Brian Kelly has talked about, and he talked about this about looking at LSU a year ago before the UCLA game and looking like a tired team. There were times during his LSU tenure where Ed Orgeron was very good about measuring his team and knowing when to push and when to pull back. When he got the job in the interim in 2016, remember, that was a very veteran football team. You had Fournette and Geis and Jamal Adams and Tre'Davious White, and Kendall Beckwith was a senior, Malachi Dupree. I mean, you had a very veteran football team. Christian Lockature was on that team. Will Clapp was on that team. Ethan Posick. I mean, 2016 was loaded. You had a veteran team. And Les ran them so hard, when Ed took over, he pulled back. And they looked like a lighter, looser team. They were. Ed was also a guy who at times, whenever he felt the stress and the pressure ramp up, he would push his guys too hard. And I think that happened last year because he knew coming out of 2020, he had to win in 2021 to save his job. All the hot seat talk was legitimate, as we saw. So last camp, he pushed very hard. And Brian Kelly's saying, look, it showed against UCLA last year. They were a tired football team. How does this team maintain its legs, maintain its health, its energy level, all that throughout the season? That's going to be a subplot to this season as well. Because, making sure that you know when to push, when to pull back, keeping your guys healthy and ready to play on Saturday is more important than being physical and running them into the ground on Tuesday. So far, the results are thumbs up. And yes, look, Corin Norman is a walk-on running back, suffered a torn ACL. It's certainly unfortunate. But you're also looking at, right now, a team that has avoided major injury. The fact that you didn't have a guy in a pile roll his ankle or his knees, certainly that's a benefit. Florida State has not been so lucky. They had a transfer center who's played in 34 games, tear a knee, and he's out for the season. I just mentioned they've lost 2 linebackers already. They had a receiver go down on Saturday against Duquesne on the long 51-yard reception. My understanding is he's going to be okay for the LSU game. But LSU's managed to stay healthy. Florida State's battled it a little bit. In a game like this where depth could be tested, so far you would have to lean LSU. Not only this week, but a big question with Kelly as he laid out nutrition, strength and conditioning, the medical staff, all the process they have put in place to keep their guys healthy and fresh. Let's see if that can last out a 12-game gauntlet, certainly an 8-game SEC gauntlet. But so far, the returns are very positive. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.